We are here at the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, ALC conference. And let me just tell you something. All of the different media outlets, they have their booths around here, right? But there was just one journalist, like amazing journalist, and I had to say, no, I need you to come on AURN. This is Mr. Stacy Brown, and he is the host of Let It Be Known News, and also, which I just found out today, one of the authors of the Transatlantic Slave Trade, Overcoming the 500-Year Legacy, along with Dr. Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and the forward is by Mr. Chuck D.
Chuck, my man.
Chuck D. So, let it be known. Like, just you and I, always around each other covering politics in the White House, other places.
That's the truth,
So I stalk your page and listen, but with all the interviews that you're doing, and in this heightened political divisive time, when we talk about let it be known, what are some things that you feel like saying, let it be known? Like, just let this
let it be known that I would be glad when this political season is over with.
Ooh.
Oh, my God. And you know it. Ebony, you've covered enough of this.
It's a lot.
You know, I know it matters who wins and who loses, but for us in our position, what also matters is that we get through this. Because, you know, I keep saying there's other news that this is important. This is extremely important.
Absolutely.
I'm not minimizing this election. You can't minimize it. But there are other things that I would like to give more attention to.
Like what?
So we are black media. Right? Our community still suffers from so many things. I was talking to a gentleman, James Walker Jr., today. He's with the American Cancer Society, and he's talking about colorectal cancer. He's talking about prostate cancer. And you know how our community is. We just don't get those screenings. We don't do the clinical trials and things of that nature. So stuff like that. There is this thing that we know as Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, right? And we heard in the debate, Donald Trump wants to get rid of that. That has saved so many lives, the Affordable Care Act. It has allowed folks like myself to, I take a shot too, right? My shot is once a week. My shot without the Affordable Care Act costs $3,500 a shot. I take 4 a month. Do the math. So it directly affects me. I had a conversation with Erica Lowe, Erica Lowe at the White House. And I told her, I said, one of the greatest achievements among many achievements that the Biden-Harris administration has accomplished is that $35 insulin.
Wow. Right.
It hits home for me because I know what it's like to have to take a shot. It's not, now mine is not diabetes. Mine happens to be colitis. Mm-hmm. So I take that shot, and it keeps me healthy. Without the Affordable Care Act, Ebony, I can't afford $3,500 a week for a shot.
Most people can't. I don't know anyone really, even with a good paying, whatever job.
Right, and I consider myself to have a good paying job.
Right. It's funny you talk about that because even though we're covering it, I'm thinking about how it's affecting me because I'm someone who's trying to conceive.
Okay.
So when I see the tropes coming up about, first of all, when Roe v. Wade was struck down, and then we're seeing those who want to have IVF. We're seeing what's happened from state to state, and doctors not intervening when things are happening, and states striking it down. That directly affects me. And my husband and I had a setback when we were trying to conceive and had a miscarriage. And I remember turning to him in the emergency room and saying, had we been anyplace else in a southern state where a lot of our family resides, and we were thinking about moving where our family is, as back to the South, I could have been stuck in a situation where I may be waiting for hours to see a doctor. I may have been dying in an emergency room because doctors are fearing helping someone unless they are facing life-threatening situations.
So it's interesting. So I started by saying that, I'd like to cover something else, and you said that, a lot of this stuff is intertwined.
Right.
And you're right. Look what we're talking about now. And you're, like you said, had you been in a different place, a different state,
the outcome would have been different.
Who knows?
I think that when you're talking about covering, different things, sometimes even mainstream media, they get into like the tit or tat or the comments or the insults, but I think the conversation needs to be redirected. So when we talk about police immunity, when we talk about why the John Lewis Voting Rights Act is needed, we need to say, here's why the vote counts in your particular state or in your particular area. And I think people can make that connection, but too often it's not about that. It's about some of the dumbness that is said.
And I was talking to Lauren Burke, and Lauren's a journalist, covers Capitol Hill, and we were talking about all the things that the former president says, and it's gotten to the point where media overlooks a lot of it because it's like, okay, same old, but you can't just overlook it. And
call it out.
You got to call it out.
Show the damage of it.
And show the damage.
And how they're putting it to action.
Right.
So when we talk about Project 2025 and then I go, oh, no, that can't happen. He can't. No, we've already seen things in Project 2025 that are already happening right now.
DEI,
it's
affirmative
in Project
action.
2025. That 920-page document is already being realized and actualized.
Fearless Fund, they just settled that lawsuit, right? But basically, they gave up the scholarship. So they lost a lot,
right?
Because this is part of Project 2025. A black woman, can you just take a minute to think about this? That lawsuit against the Fearless Fund says black women have no business trying to help other black women. That you must, as a black woman, you must help white women, Asian women, Hispanic women, or whomever. You can't just help black women. How am I going to come and tell Ebony who she can talk to on her show?
Not to mention, when we look at the pure numbers and look at the VC dollars that go out, black folk get less than 1% or less than 2% of the dollars. So you're telling a group who gets less than 2% of the money that they cannot offer aid to each other.
It's so incredible. And then they'll tell us about affirmative action, and which they took away. They'll tell us about government benefits.
The contracting, the 8A program, the MBDA program.
And you talk about putting something in context and speaking the truth about it. So I was in a conversation just the other day with a guy I grew up with. And one of the things we see on social media a lot is this misinformation about including illegal immigrants. And he said, this is a black man. He says, I'm tired. These illegal immigrants. They're taking our jobs. They are taking all the government benefits that we should. Here's the thing with that. It is so untrue. They're voting. It's so untrue because illegal immigrants, the last thing they want to do is have a high profile. They're not going to go apply for a government benefit. They're not going to go into, a store or a whatever and apply. Right. And they're not trying to be a White House reporter. They are trying to fly under the radar. But yet this lie, continues. They're not doing these things. When I lived in California, I'll give you a great example. When I lived in California, one of the big things, if you are moving apartments or houses, everybody know, get a U-Haul, go to any underpass, and there's a bunch of Mexican immigrants. They're lined up waiting for you to say, can you come help? Pick 2 or 3 of them. They pay them a day's wage, and they'll do all the moving for you. And you talk about black jobs. That's not a black job, right? That is an insult to say that that's all we can do. That's what that black job is about, too.
That's to say that's all you can do. That's all we want to allow you to do. And for anybody that is coming in this country trying to put a ceiling on them, period, it's wrong. We know what it is. It's stemming in white nationalism and racism. And so I don't want us to keep eating that diet, but I want us to continue to push back, which is also why black media is so important at this time, so that we can control our own narrative. And even on the topic of illegal immigrants, why don't we ever talk about the companies who are doing the hiring that also have record profits? The issue isn't that other person who may be coming from a country where the U.S. may have trafficked in and helped in the destabilization of that country, who is trying to find another way out. But why aren't you going after these companies that have large profits that is also profiting off of the prison system?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, come on. That's been the case forever, and that's been, this issue with privatization of prisons, and we have prisons in the South, for instance, in Alabama, where they're sending their inmates to work, have contracts at fast food restaurants.
I saw that story. I just not giving them breaks, not.
When their sentence is up and they go back to that fast food restaurant, they refuse to hire them.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? How come we don't talk about that?
Because it would force those who control the dollars to admit some things that they're doing that they know that are wrong,
right.
And they don't want to change the system. Stacy, talk about just really quickly because I want to hit on this book. I want to hit on this amazing
Here we
book.
go.
Why was it important for you
to
take part in this project?
So I work for Dr. Chavis, so
Right.
so he said write this book. No,
Right.
So we did a series. I did a series before the pandemic on the Transatlantic Slave Trade. It was a 14-part series, right? And
Is it on your page?
NMPA.
Okay. Make sure people go to find it.
And so we had people saying, y'all should do a book. You should do a book. And Dr. Chavis, of course, always talking about things like the Transatlantic Slave Trade.
Yes.
And he says, yeah, let's do something with the columns, but then we're going to add some things. So I called Chuck D, and because one of my favorite, I'm not a big rap guy, but one of my favorite songs have been the Public Enemy song, You Can't Trust It.
Yes.
Or Can't Trust It. And this book, really, and Chuck, when he saw it all, he said it just immediately, that's what came to his mind, Can't Trust It. And he felt compelled. He wrote this great forward, and he said, I want to be a part of it. And who's going to say no to Chuck?
Right.
Not me. And so it came about. Even the NBA superstar legend Isaiah Thomas, he's like, yeah, I want to lend my voice to it too.
Oh, wow.
So we got Isaiah Thomas. We have the former African Union ambassador, Arikana.
Oh my goodness,
Quo.
I love her.
Yeah, so she's
oh my goodness,
she's participated in the book as well.
Oh my goodness.
So.
I want people to see this. Make sure you run out and get it. Lastly, where can people go so they can hear Let It Be Known news? Talk about what's coming up.
So you obviously can get the book at Amazon.com.
Yes.
But Let It Be Known news, YouTube, LIBK-news, all the social media channels. We're not as prolific as you are on Instagram. But
we trying to do the same thing. We're all family in these streets.
Yes, we definitely are. But yeah, I mean, we usually go live at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and we do other specials too. So
I love it.
We try to be like you, Ebony.
Look, I'm going to support because you have always supported me. I love seeing you. I do, because we know that we're a lot of times in many spaces where we don't see each other.
We don't.
And that's important.
Yeah.
And so instead of tearing each other down, I'm happy. I love seeing a Black News Corps that lifts each other up, because we understand the struggle is the same.
Look, it's great when I walk into the White House, into those White House grounds, and I see you broadcasting.
Like,
that is like the greatest thing. Like you said, to see you thrive, this talented, gorgeous Black woman,
thank you,
thrive in this climate and in this field. It's so inspirational. So I'm certainly going to support.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do, Stacy. Make sure you guys support the book. Make sure, I want you to be up at 7:30 in the morning and watch it. It's good you can chime in, because he'll shout you out if you do. But again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan.